I debated whether or not to share this story, because there still feels like there's a lot of energy attached to it. I, growing up, so I believe it was when I was 6 and my brothers were 4 and 2. It's a lot for new parents. And I want to kind of have this caveat of understanding that my stepdad, who I call my dad, is a really great man, but he had his struggles. Like he was a new dad, he was navigating, like I'm not technically his biological kid. He had gone to Stanford Law, and then he was about to finish when he had met me and my mom. And so I imagine that there was just a lot of feelings around going from being on track to become a lawyer to being in construction and working for his dad, building houses and like doing different things, and how just like providing and all this different stuff and the weight of that. And my dad started drinking and um, not always the nicest verbally when drinking. And my mom was doing her best too. And they're just like they're new parents. And it's not okay to get drunk and say mean things to people because you're not managing your emotions correctly. Um, then this is why part of the reason why I provide so much support, especially for men, so that they can have those spaces where they can feel like they're not alone. And if they're struggling as dads or anything else, and talk to other men and find resources and support instead of falling prey to alcoholism or drugs or violence or anything else, right? Thankfully, my dad was never violent towards my mom, but has not always said the nicest things when drinking. Um, and so one night when I was 6, my brothers and I were upstairs, and my parents were fighting, and it was like verbally, and it was loud, and dad had been drinking, and he was like rustling around in some drawers. And I um I was convinced my dad was going to try and kill my mom. Now, that wasn't true of what actually was happening. He was just loud and looking for something. But as kids, we have wild imaginations. And and that's why it's so important as adults to really be mindful of what your kids are seeing and hearing and how we help talk to them about conflict and conflict resolution and how they're not responsible for us as adults. And there's so many pieces to that. But when I was 6 years old, I heard my parents fighting, and I came downstairs to protect my mom, to try and save my mom's life at 6. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me for a long time. And um, I feel bad for both of my parents. And I know it's not a great story to share. Like I was raised in a way where we're not supposed to air our dirty laundry, which is why I am the black sheep of our family. Because I believe in claiming our stories and working through them in conversation. So I know that me posting this video will potentially increase strife, and that's part of my journey. If that's what happens, that's unfortunate. But um, it was a long time ago. It was like almost 40 years ago that this happened, and my dad doesn't drink anymore. And my parents, they've been together like 45 years, which is crazy. So they obviously work through their stuff, and I really commend them in that. Um, but yeah, please be mindful of how you engage in conflict and get the support that you need if you're struggling with alcoholism or drugs. Um, but yeah, that's just today's rambly story that took a lot of courage for me to post today. Um, Part of my journey has always been to protect, to provide, to nurture, to grow. Like, so even from like a young age, I told you my story of how I was 5 years old and wanting to hold all the whole world's pain, right? And to support and nurture. And at 6, like protecting, providing. But like kids shouldn't be taking on those kinds of feelings. Like those are big. Like to have that intention is beautiful, but to also frame it in ways that are more functional, I think is really important. Um, but yeah. This is like a really interesting process for me of raw and edited storytelling. Uh, my dad did end up going to AA, if I remember correctly, and getting the support that he needed and all that. But yeah, it was a journey to be in a household where there was that kind of arguing. It was intense and dysregulating energetically and emotionally to uh to experience that. And also like just being mindful, y'all, of um what you tolerate in relationships, what you model for your kids, and knowing that like in those foundational years, do you want your kids to think that the kind of relationship that you are enabling is the kind of relationship you want them to think that they deserve, that they think is normal? So even if you are struggling with self-worth or boundaries or sticking through things, you think that people are like going to get better. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But is the relationship you are currently in the one that you want your children to grow up to experience? For them to show up and think that that's okay of how they should treat another person that they're in a romantic relationship with? Are you modeling what healthy friendships look like and having a healthy social dynamic? Are you letting your partner like go spend quality time with their friends so that your kids can see what quality, healthy friendships look like? How are you? Are you overworking? Are you modeling for your kids that working all the time to the point of burnout is the kind of life that they should have? What kind of generational patterns are you passing on? What are you normalizing? We can all heal and grow. We can break generational patterns. We can break our individual patterns. We can give ourselves grace and stop doing dysfunctional things. We can stop harming ourselves. We can stop harming other people. We can forgive ourselves and we can forgive others and move forward. I don't condone or justify the things that my dad sometimes said to my mom, but I forgive him because that's my value and that is what I choose to do. My dad is a great man, but he's still just a man. He's still just a person who walked through his own struggles in life. And I love him nonetheless, just like I love my mom. And I'm infinitely proud of how she's grown and risen in her power, especially in her later years. So just goes to show that our history need not define us, how we choose to move and grow from it. That shall.